Hey everyone. So it seems that Kenneth doesn't know he's live right now. So I'm just going to step in and help
Um,
him out. And he's going to introduce his segment. All right, take it over, Kenneth.
sorry, everyone. Good afternoon, PVAMU. I'm Kenneth Gibbs, and today we're going to be having a discussion panel. And my guest today is going to be Laura Burks and Professor TVV. And today on our discussion panel, we're going to be talking about celebrities endorsing Donald Trump. So there's been a lot of interest in the headlines lately, seeing celebrities out here sharing their political opinions and support for Donald Trump. So, uh, I want to start with open the floor to TDV and Laura Burks with some questions. So, well, first I want to introduce them. How you two doing today, ladies?
Doing just fine, Kenneth. How you doing today?
Good, doing well.
Good,
So,
good.
so I
We're
just
happy to
want
be here.
to
Yes, very happy.
I'm very thankful for you to be here. Thank you.
Mm.
So, just want to get into a few questions about what do you guys think about celebrities in their endorsement of Trump and how it's affected them in the public eye? So, for my first question, do you believe, just in as a whole, do you believe it's important that celebrities should endorse political candidates? Why or why not? I'll open the floor to
Uh,
anyone.
Laura, why don't you go ahead and start?
Okay. So yes, I'm Laura Burks. I'm senior at PV AMU University, Prairie View. So on this topic, I have some kind of strong views about that because it can be a great thing that celebrities are endorsing candidates. Like we have like Cardi B that did a whole like vote campaign and actually reached out to Joe Biden to get him to broadcast to her fan base to get them more knowledgeable about voting. But then again, we have people who are a little bit less informed about politics that got involved. We have like for example, Lil Wayne got involved, and there was a whole controversy about him and Black Lives Matter, and then he endorsed Trump, and then you've got Little Pump who endorsed, and I think that it's coming from a place of people that aren't necessarily educated about the topics or the candidates. They're just coming to support that candidate for whatever reason they may have, and it can be dangerous with younger voters that don't necessarily do their own research about what candidates stand for, what is going on in politics, what propositions may be up. And I think it would be more beneficial if celebrities, instead of endorsing a specific candidate, like backed like education about voting or education about, who essentially like the topics versus the actual candidates, just to
Mm-hmm.
get that awareness out. Because some people, they might just go to their social media and they're believing everything you're saying, but you might not be the best person to speak on it, and maybe defer them to people that would be better to speak on it.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Celebrities have a lot of persuasive power, right? And take Kanye's run for president as an example, where it's not to say that a person isn't within their right to run for public office or have a particular candidate um, that they lean towards, but I think it's just on that fine line of you know your popularity or your celebrity being more the thing that's the persuasion as opposed to the issues. And so with entertainers and athletes who use their platform for exacting change, sticking with the platforms is a great way to use that celebrity, a great way to use that influence. But to then say, I back this particular candidate, and regardless of what their platforms and what their beliefs are, I'm backing this person. That can grow a little bit dangerous, and it grows dangerous in a way that may not be the intention for the celebrity as well. I mean, cancel culture is a real thing, and it's it can be damaging for celebrities who are trying to build their profile and find themselves, at a professional loss because the public doesn't like the particular person that they're backing. We've seen quite a few celebrities who back Trump, and people that whether we knew they were Trump supporters or not, have taken a definite hit, in terms of their careers because the public at large either do or don't agree with how they feel about a particular person. So sticking with the platforms or sticking with the issues might be the better way for celebrities to use their influence.
Definitely. I agree as well. So I want to ask, what if one of your favorite celebrities happened to be endorsing a candidate that you weren't particularly fond with? How would you react? Do you still support that celebrity, or do their political beliefs doesn't matter to you? What would be your thoughts?
That's a great question. I think one of my favorite actors is, the fact that he is also a Trump supporter sometimes has left me feeling a little bit conflicted about Isaiah Washington. Is that actor? I loved him in Love Jones and Grey's Anatomy, and thinks he's such a strong voice and a great presence on screen. And then to learn that he is a Trump supporter and backs a lot of the Republican platform was disappointing, but at the same time, look, it's our system, and it's within everyone's right to go down the path they want to go. It doesn't change Isaiah Washington's talent as a skilled actor, but did it change how I view him? Absolutely. Is it within his right to support the Republican Party or Donald Trump in particular? Absolutely. And at some point, in doing business with people, you have to decide, is that a deal breaker? Within the industry, I'm certain he's been met with some pushback, as far as his career is concerned. But again, just as your political leanings is for you to manage and navigate, so is your career. So I still admire him as a performer. But yeah, it did make me feel some kind of way to know that Isaiah Washington supported Trump.
And I can say, it is a hard decision when it comes to that. I'm someone that, I like following people and, paying attention to people's work that actually stand for something. So when I run into somebody who I liked their work, and then I find out like, oh, you're a Trump supporter, you may have followed or back something that, I don't necessarily agree with, I have to have that conversation with myself, like about separating the art from the person. And so it is hard because there are times that, I feel like, our dollar is very important, and that I would want to only put money behind the things that I agree in, which is, either going to, movies or paying attention to TV shows or stuff like that agree with what I agree with, because I, value my dollar as a consumer. But then again, I have to understand that that you're an artist, and your art necessarily doesn't have to coincide with who you are. So it's like a touchy thing with me. Like, I feel like there's people who I have ignored the fact that they, do support Trump or do support causes that I don't necessarily agree with because I like what they do. I mean, case in point, Lil Wayne, I love his music, but I don't agree with, you backing that, or I don't agree with statements you've said about Black Lives Matter. Or there's other, people that I feel like that, but I still like your music. I just feel like if I wish that people would kind of pay attention to who your fan base is and be sensitive to who your fan base is and the things that they go through when you're speaking about those. But I can't stop who you support for. I mean, it's a free country. You're able to back whoever you want, but it is kind of a balancing act of where do you draw the line,
Yeah. Yeah.
Right, and that leads me pretty much to my next question. Laura, you pretty much kind of touched on your feelings about this, but just to reiterate a bit, how do you feel about the celebrities like Lil Wayne and Kanye and 50 Cent openly saying that they're endorsing Trump over Joe Biden?
Whew.
You want me to take it first?
Go ahead.
Okay, I'll take it first. Okay, so when it came to Kanye, because not only did he back Trump, he then decided he was going to do this whole run for president. It kind of disappointed me because I feel like the run for president it was like noise in the election. So like you had all these votes that went to Kanye. He didn't win, but it's still a big number that went to him that could have gone to someone else. And I feel like because it wasn't necessarily a serious run, because if it was a serious run, you would have put everything in time to run in every state, and he missed the deadline for several. So that I didn't like that. I mean, if you want to run for president, that's fine, but like take it serious and like really make a true effort at it. As far as other celebrities, I just go back to your fan base. Like your true fan base for some of these artists are some of the people that are also being oppressed by things that Trump has put in place or backed or that have happened during the Trump administration. And I feel like it's almost like, it's disheartening, and it's just like it's sad because there's people that have supported you from day one that buy everything or that go to everything, and you're backing somebody that potentially puts things in place that's harmful to them. So yeah, it irritates me. I'm sorry. I could rant, so I'm gonna let CDB take the rest of it.
I think you said it. The troubling thing with Kanye, I don't know as much about the 50 Cent situation, but we saw also with Ice Cube where, is it a matter of these hip hop artists supporting Trump, or are they finding it as a means to an end to get into a conversation to do as much good as they can, from their perspective or for their various communities? Look, on one hand, I get it. Like, I get it, Ice Cube. I get it, Lil Wayne. I get it. Whoever feels like being in the room with whoever's in the position of leadership, good, bad, or indifferent, it's important to be in that room because your needs won't be met. Your list of demands will not be considered if you're not in the room having the conversation. So I get it, and I think what society or the general public have to take into consideration is that being in the room doesn't necessarily mean that you support the person. So when Steve Harvey or Ice Cube or whomever took meetings with Trump to say, hey, these are the concerns of my community. These are the concerns of my people. Or when all the presidents from the various HBCUs went, now that's parts of that is a whole different story because there was a little bit of publicity working on both sides for that. But long and short of all of that is, if you're not participating in the conversation, it's difficult for your needs to be met, even if you don't support the person that's sitting on the other side of the table. And I think there's a lot of that going on, but it gets clumped up in, well, they were in the room together, so they must be supported. And, I think that's just a misdirected or a misguided way of looking at some of the meetings that have been taken, and the participation that some of these artists are engaging in with Trump or with even with Obama. I mean, just because Jay-Z is sitting in the room with Obama, we don't know what conversation that they had. We don't know what conversations and what workings and dealings are happening that are not on camera or off the record. That may push society forward. We don't know what all of those conversations are. So I tend to give some of these people the benefit of the doubt that they are working in the best interest of the community that they serve, or the, you know, the fan base that they serve, and not just in their, you know, having tea and crumpets with Trump. I don't know.
But definitely, I feel like I agree. The celebrities seem to have their own agenda when it comes to being involved with Trump. Many people say that for 50, like on 50 Cent, for example, he shared his immediate thoughts on Joe Biden's tax plans, in which those making over $400,000 a year will be taxed 60%, and he wasn't a fan of that, and so that alone went pretty much won Trump his vote. So he says, and so like to touch on what you said earlier, TVV, yeah, these celebrities, they sometimes they're unaware of the influence and the power that they have, and it could be dangerous when they, you know, when they say certain things or support certain people.
Yeah.
No, go ahead.
Oh no, I was just helping you bring this to a close, actually, because it's time for the next panel to slide in and give their presentation. But what are some of your closing thoughts on this topic?
I'll pretty much just to piggyback on what you and Laura said, I'm pretty much disappointed as well seeing these celebrities, these Black men that I champion myself, being a fan of their music and their art. You know, it's disappointing to see them support someone who's been openly racist, who's shown his lack of care for the country, his lack of care for responsibilities as president, and to still be able to say that they support him and want him to be in office another 4 years, it's baffling, but it is what it is.
Yeah, it is what it is, huh? All right. Well, Kenneth, good job today, and why don't you sign out? And we're going to turn it over to Tatiana and Olivia as they begin their panel. Hey, ladies.
Hey, how are you?
Awesome.
Hi, good afternoon.
Hey, Tatiana. I'm gonna turn this over to you, ladies, and have you take it over from here.
Okay, well, good afternoon, everybody. My name is Olivia Lemon.
And I'm Tatiana Battle.
In Group B, we are here on behalf of Group B, and we have a very good panel discussion that we want to start with, something that is kind of new and fresh, and something that has just really been affecting our generation lately. And it's mostly just about the election. How does it feel to see Kamala Harris, the first Black vice president, woman vice president in the White House? Yes, got to add the woman in there. In the White House, and then also how it is for us going into this election and being such a great part of this election, and just seeing the history and just grasping what actually just happened a couple of weeks ago. How was that different from when we were in 2008, when we were probably in 4th and 5th grade?
Exactly.
Seeing the first Black president, like what are kind of the similarities and what are the differences?
Yeah, so let's talk about that. Let's talk about that. So just if you were to close your eyes, you know, just for a moment and go back to 2008 and just imagine where you were at the time where, first of all, we didn't have school that day when Obama got inaugurated.
Okay, see, I'm not gonna lie. I do not really remember about the inauguration, but for some reason I do remember being in school election night, and I'm gonna let you continue. But I have a quick story about that that I want to talk about.
Yes. So although, like, okay, for instance, although you may not recall exactly, you know, that moment, just try to think about a time where time just really felt like it stood still. You know, for years we've watched our grandparents, some of us blessed enough to have great grandparents, speak about the trials and the hardships that we've had to go through as an African American, and just to be able to live in a moment where there is an African American man on the ballot let alone he's made it so far that now he's getting inaugurated as the president of the United States. I know for me, in that moment, first, I would like to say that my dad and my mom, they both are Army veterans. And at the time, they were both enlisted in the military.
Yeah.
So for them, this is their chief of staff. This is somebody that this is someone that's going to sign when they retire on their retirement papers. So for them, that moment was so monumental. And just watching my parents, I've never seen them in awe like that. I think the only time before I saw them like that was maybe a graduation of a family member. But even then, President Obama visited, President Obama visited Fayetteville State University back in 2008. And that was at the time my mom was attending that school to get her degree in early childhood. And at the time, that school is so small. And so many people from all over North Carolina had flocked just so they can get a glimpse, just so they can get a moment. Even Martin Luther King's children, they were there in attendance. Michelle Obama was there. And to fast forward to a moment where you're on every channel, every news outlet, you're seeing a Black man accept the president seat.
Yeah.
It was almost like, I wouldn't say it felt like Christmas, but it was like you stood frozen in time and you just thought, wow.
Let me slide in real quick. Let me slide in real quick. I was in Denver. I went to the Democratic National Convention in 2008 and witnessed Obama accept the nomination for to be the presidential candidate for the Democratic Party. And when I tell you, it was monumental. First of all, Invesco Field, or it's not called Invesco Field anymore, Mile High Stadium in Denver, where the Denver Broncos play, that place was packed. They moved it from the convention center to the stadium because that many people came to Denver to see this historical moment. So never mind whether or not he was going to win. He was the first African-American on a major presidential ticket at that point, and that alone was huge. And so no one wanted to miss it. Tell you what, if Laura goes back to the 3-shot, I'm going to grab something. I'm going to show you something that I have from that day. It's here in my office. No one wanted to miss that particular moment because it had never been done. But we also knew how charismatic Obama was, and knew that there was no way it wasn't going to happen. So what you see in this box, just correct the focus a little bit. What you see in this box there is my ticket to get in to see him accept the nomination. It was a big pass you had to wear. And then these were some of the buttons that from the convention, campaign buttons from the convention. And when I tell you, I wept like a big baby, watching him accept the nomination, number one. But then something happened after he gave his nomination speech. He gave a speech, and then it was time to leave the stadium. And the whole stadium, as we were walking out, started singing "We Shall Overcome." And it did not matter what ethnicity you was, where you came from, what part of the country you came from. And keep in mind, this is the convention. So there was representatives from all 50 states and the various territories. So when I tell you the United States of America walked out of the stadium singing "We Shall Overcome" together, the election itself hadn't happened, and we already felt like we won. Like something big had already happened. So then jump to election night, and I remember I was directing a production in LA, a stage production, and my cast, it was an all-Black cast, young people, they were all in college. And instead of being on the stage and working and rehearsing that night, we all just kind of huddled around the television and just watched. And when I tell you, I mean, we were laid out on the floor, we were hugging each other, we were yelling out the window, running up and down the street. I mean, it what a time to be alive. That excitement and that joy. Um, and as a woman, we thought that same sort of thing was going to happen in 2016. We thought a very different type of celebration was going to happen in 2016. And as you remember, 4 years ago, it was a very different experience, a very different reaction on election night, that has kind of, just kind of carried us through the last administration. So now, as we look at the possibilities of Kamala, it's that reigniting of that excitement and that joy and the possibilities of us being represented in such a formidable way. And then on top of that, you know, the youth, your generation, your particular demographic, and Black women motivators, moving the needle in Georgia and in Arkansas and in Arizona and in Pennsylvania and all throughout the country. It's just phenomenal to see a truth that we have always known, which is Black women really are the backbone and the makers of this nation. Thank you for letting
I
me interject
definitely
that.
no, I definitely agree. I like how you said, TDV, that on election night y'all were running through the streets and things like that. Because I always say that two things. I wish that I could have been a student at PV when Obama got elected, because I just know that everybody was going crazy here. And then I also say I wish I would have been just a little bit older to appreciate it.
Mhm.
Because I felt like with me being older during his second term, I understood, I was getting to understand politics. Of course, not as much as I understand it now, but I was getting a chance to understand politics, and I was understanding like the significance of him being the first Black president. I do remember on election night, we knew, like I said, we were in fourth and fifth grade, so we knew that we were gonna have Black president, and that's it. And that's just all we knew. So I do remember, I have a story that I just love telling people. On election night, I remember, me and my mom were just waiting up, just seeing the votes and stuff come in. And I think I had fell asleep. And then I ended up waking up, and my mama was just crying, just boohoo crying. And I remember being like, Mama, like, what's wrong? Like, I was just so confused. Just had woke up. It was the middle of the night. She had the news on. And she was just like, my mama would have loved to see this. This is what my mama fought for. And I just, at that moment, I was like, okay, my mama is sad, but Obama won. That's happy. That's good, great. But when I think and I look back on that moment, I'm like, wow, like the significance in that moment that people older than us were feeling. Like, I wish I would have got the chance to feel that, and that's why I feel like I'm feeling that now with Kamala. And I'm actually getting to, I don't know, just grasp it. I, like I said, when Obama became president, we were so young, and I appreciate it. But now that I'm older, and the things that I know that are important when presidents are elected affects us as a people. That can affect students, that can affect HBCUs, and just seeing that we have somebody in office that came for HBCU, it just, for this election, it was just, I got emotional for no reason. And I was just like, well, of course for a reason, but I don't know. It's just so crazy. And then another thing I want to mention too, um, TDV, what you were just saying, how, you guys were walking out saying we shall overcome, as if you guys had already won. And I do feel like that mindset is definitely why Obama did win, because I was talking to some of my friends, and we were just saying how when on election day at our schools, which this never happened, they never made us do this before Obama got elected. They never made us do this when Trump got elected, like the second term, never. We had to basically have like a in school presidential ballot, and we had
Mm,
to vote as if we were voting for like the real president. And at the end of the day, they released the who won, and I remember at my school, President Obama won. But me and my sister, I mean my friends, were just talking about that, and we were like, why did they make us do that? And I do believe personally that it's because people who did not want Obama to win, they wanted to see, okay, what were the parents saying at home? Who do the parents think are gonna win?
Oh.
Whoever the parents are at home talking about, that's who the students are going to vote for. So they already knew, they were intimidated because they already knew that Obama was bound to be president. And looking back on that, I was like, wow, like we never did that again. But for that specific election, people were just, they knew that Obama had something special, you know, and they made us do that and never did it again. But yeah, I remember at my school, it was like the votes were very close, but when they said Obama's name, we were going down the hallway, walking to our bus, and screaming and all of that.
Yeah.
That's because that was just something special. They seen something special in him, and they knew that that night he had a good chance of winning.
Sure. That is interesting. I think you make a great point that that was a way of polling the parents through the children, which also seems really unethical. But at the same time, I think I've seen schools, have mock elections and see what students would think, but it never occurred to me that that would be part of the motivation is that. Wow, interesting.
I would have to say that, looking back at just the amount of energy and just the amount just the effort that we put into our vote back in 2008. Of course, like Olivia was saying, we were not at the age old enough to really understand how detrimental politics and the effects of it affects our people. And so I think now more than ever, because of this pandemic, all our attention has been on is the media, and all of our attention that has been on is our pockets, our financial needs, our legal system, everything that's been happening for hundreds of years. Our attention is turned towards it because with the pandemic, it's really no other way to look. And I feel like, especially with this presidential election, yes, there's never a perfect candidate. I won't say that Joe Biden was the perfect candidate for the minority people, but I will say that even with his faults and even with Kamala, the things that she has done in the past or may have said, the references, whatever it may be, when we weigh out our options and we look to see the bigger picture, I think that the voter turnout, the initiatives that were pushed, and just the stress of this election really, really affected how our emotions were towards the final verdict, which was, of course, Joe Biden winning. Now, we know that this is going to be a long road ahead. We know that it's not going to be a 360 change, but I feel like our emotions back in 2008, in some way, they're a little bit similar because we were fighting for change. And after these 4 years of one president, we knew that we were going to be at odds, but we just want change, right? And so I definitely can see the similarities in the emotional appeal with both elections. But I also can attend to the fact that Kamala Harris is the first female African-American vice president. She has other ethnicities as well. So she's representing other cultures at the same time. And not to mention, she is an HBCU graduate. So it's something that is really significant to us. And even then, the fact that Joe Biden now, currently, he's looking at his White House staff with women. He wants to fill his staff with women. He wants to fill his cabinet with strong, powerful women. And that says something about the change that we want in society. Now we want to switch up this stereotype about gender roles. And I feel like as a collective, it will make us a better people because now we won't look at things so black and white. It may not change things drastically, but I feel like in due time, there will be a change. And I think that's what everyone wanted when we elected Obama. We knew that the world was not going to accept him immediately. We knew it was going to be a hard road ahead, but there was significant change there. It allowed the world to see that things are changing, whether we want them to or not. And people do have a voice and their vote does count. And you saw that in this election and we saw it back in 2008. So I think that's something significant to watch for.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It looks like your teammate, Shaylin, has joined you. Shaylin, what do you have to add to the conversation?
I was just listening to Liv and how she was talking about like how when Obama had got elected when we were younger, and just the impact that it had made on us being in school. I know for me personally, the first time that Obama was elected, he was actually elected on my birthday. And so for me, that was a very exciting moment, because if of course it gave me bragging rights. So ever since that had happened, I've always used it as a bragging right, but I've always said that I can't wait until I have children of my own, and that I will be able to tell them like, hey y'all, the first black president was nominated on my birthday. And I just really thought that that would be something special. It's always been something special to me personally. Obviously because one, I take my birthday very seriously, but because even though I was super young when he was elected into office, I knew that it was important. I didn't completely understand the whole concept of why it was important, but I knew that even in elementary school, even in the fourth and fifth grade, I had never seen a president or a leader the same skin color as me. I had never seen anyone in office the same color as me. I had never been taught in school, especially elementary school, that black people could actually be something and that they could actually, rule the world and rule the country. And of course, like nowadays, that is something that our culture is starting to educate themselves on. Like now we're starting to realize, oh snap, like we were rulers, we were kings and queens, and we did this and that. And we really had our own empire and we had our own things before we were literally robbed of our own flesh. So to not be taught that in elementary school and then to see it actually before my eyes, it was something that was incredible, phenomenal, for lack of better words. It gave me hope. And I think that especially when he got elected the first time, like that was like the word, that entire election process was hope, because we all had hope that okay, this could actually happen. And sure enough, it did. So back then, even how black people and how everyone had came together because they knew that they wanted change back then. I definitely didn't expect anything less with this previous election, because we've seen what has happened and occurred these past 4 years with the leader who we had in office. So we knew that we could do better. We've done it before, so there was absolutely no excuse for the turnout to not be as incredible as it was. So
Yeah, I can definitely agree with that for sure. And I know I just want to ask you guys a quick question, because I'm sure we remember, of course, where we were when Obama got elected. And I understand we didn't really have a election night with this election, but can you guys kind of say like where you were when you found that Joe Biden was the president elect?
I will say that this entire election season, I've been covering local elections with a local newsroom, and that perspective has changed my whole outlook on how elections are even done. And so, working up to election day, it was almost like the nail biting moment where I was like, okay, I finally feel like my work is going to be start to kind of fizzle out once we know exactly who the president elect is, right? And so I was in my room just kind of surfing the internet trying to figure out, okay, what am I going to do now that local elections are called, we're waiting for the presidential election to be called. What am I going to do now? So I'm just trying to figure out different things to be creative, and I look on the TV screen and I see on MSNBC and Joe Biden, now people are in the streets celebrating because he had gotten way over 270 electoral college votes. And so my parents are calling me, my grandparents are calling me, and it was the Saturday where I was just watching the television, trying to find stuff to be creative, and boom, that's when it happened. I thought the work there was done. Of course it's not, because there's stories about voter fraud, there's recounts about to be happening. And so it was like I was happy, I was excited in that one moment, and then Like not even by the nighttime, not even by 7 p.m. on Saturday, it was already like, okay, he actually is not going to concede because Donald Trump's not going to let him concede. So it was like the joy I felt when Obama got elected into being the president did not last nearly as long when Joe Biden did, because of all of the unnecessary things that just kept happening. It was like, was it not good enough for him to, get more than 270 votes? Now we got to look into voter fraud, recounts, missing ballots. Like it was like I was happy, but then at the same time, I was just like, when is it going to be over? When are people finally going to see? Sometimes you win one day, you lose the other. That's politics. So it's like, I don't know. I've still been a little like frustrated because it's like we keep calling him president-elect. Like he's not in the office. Donald Trump won't concede. It's like we won, but we didn't. It's like you're still fighting,
Yeah. Well, he's going to be president-elect until the inauguration anyway. So that aside, let that be your solace that that Biden was in fact elected, that him being president-elect is simply the protocol until he has been sworn into office. That's his official title. I was having coffee. I was still in bed. I refused to get out of bed that morning. I was like, I'm reading and writing and working on whatever reports or, doing whatever I need to do from the comforts of my bed. And part of that had to be due to the fact that I was a bit depressed about what was happening so far. That not since 2000, the election with Bush 2 and Gore did we see such a mess of our system. I mean, certainly 2016 was a disaster too, but with 2000, just very quickly, 2000. October of 2000, I was in Sao Paulo, Brazil. And Sao Paulo has one of the highest rate of poverty in the world. And they were in the middle of an election also. And the people there take voting so seriously. 70% of the people who live in Sao Paulo, Brazil, of a particular age, the age was like under 35, live beneath the poverty line there, earning $100 a month. And 98% of those people, I will never forget that number, 98% of those people stood in line to vote for their leadership. And I asked the friend of mine who I was there to visit, she said, we vote because it's for our life. And I came home to the States November 7th, 2000, and I went right to the voting poll. Like as soon as I landed, it was election day here, and I went right to my voting poll and I voted, and I was very excited. And it took weeks, months for our situation to be ironed out. And I really thought that was going to be the case again with this election. And it was one of those things where just by chance, I happened, like Tatiana said, I happened to look up and a decision was being made, and made not just with MSNBC, but also with Fox News. Like, reporters were conveying who won the election. So, that was really good to see.
Okay.
Yeah, I agree. I wasn't completely sure. I was waiting every day, and then I was kind of caught off guard Saturday morning, and my roommates had actually told me before I was able to even hop on social media and see for myself. They're like, "Oh, Biden is president." I was like, "Oh, okay." Glad to finally know.
Well, I've enjoyed this discussion. I hope we can get a chance to talk about this more on our own time because this is definitely a never-ending topic. But thank you so much for giving us this opportunity, TDV, to talk about something that has been really passionate and just on our hearts throughout this year, and something that I feel like our generation has had a big part in. And
Yes.
once again, my name is Olivia Lemon.
I'm Tatiana Battle.
I am Shaylin Young.
Good job, ladies. Excellent work. We are going to now turn things over to Laura Burks, who has the third component of these presentations today. Laura, you want to join the call and introduce your guest?
Hello. Great discussion, ladies. I enjoyed this segment. So along with myself, I also have Dion Davis, who will be assisting with this discussion. So for our panel, we decided to highlight Festival on the Hill and the winners of the festival. So we have an amazing, amazing filmmaker that's going to join our discussion today. We have Chauncey Johnson. He was the winner of the Audience Choice Awards during the Festival on the Hill. And then there was Damon. So congratulations and thank you for joining us today.
Thank you. Thank you. I think I can get off mute, but thank you.
Absolutely. So great film. I actually assisted with the Festival on the Hill, and I know myself and TDV the entire time were just just
looking at each other. We were over there squirming and dipping and dodging, and it was awesome.
So it was an amazing, amazing film. And actually, I want to play a quick little teaser trailer for it for those that missed the Festival on the Hill. Just a second.
While she's doing that, Chauncey, thank you so much for participating today. I know Laura was just tickled when she said that you would be joining the call. Oh, she got it. She has it up. Okay, so before she gets into that, let's go ahead and run your trailer here.
I helped you when you needed help.
That's not fair. I never asked.
Oh, yes, you did. Your life choices placed me in your life. I offered my hand and you took it. And I gave you everything you ever asked for.
Oh, short trailer. So that was just a little teaser into, and then there was Damien. An amazing film, lots of twists and turns. So I really want to ask, one, since you participated in our virtual film festival, how was the festival for you?
It was great, actually. I've been to other festivals, but like this one is like the first one that felt like, it was live and I was actually able to sit down and watch every film. So it was amazing. It was fun. It was interesting to see, especially how we're doing things with this pandemic and to be part of something that's a little more virtual and to do it from the comfort of your own home. It was great.
That's awesome. I'm really glad you enjoyed it. It was phenomenal and great to have something go on during the pandemic to take our minds off of everything because it's been so heavy and just sit, maybe grab some popcorn and just watch films was great. Dion, go ahead and jump in.
Okay. When filming in the middle of a pandemic, did that negatively affect your film?
Well, interestingly enough, we actually filmed this movie last year in the summer of 2019. But what did start to affect me was the fact that I did need to do ADR, and we were having issues with like scheduling the time to really do it. And there were already certain cases of coronavirus popping up, so we weren't too worried about it at the time. But then, it was like one of those situations where, all right, we're going to do it on this day. Everybody's good with this day. Let's do it. And then the entire country went on lockdown. So that can be difficult.
Yeah, it definitely was difficult for all of us.
So is it, for future projects, is it affecting any of your projects that you have going down the line? Have you had to adjust production any? What's been the rippling effect of it?
It made me think about project moving forward that I'm writing up right now, and the idea that everything needs to be smaller cast, smaller crew, and part of me actually prefer that. I actually like that a little bit, and just adjusting to the fact that or challenging myself with the idea that maybe I could do a movie with just two characters, and you watch the entire movie with just two people. So it could be that's the big challenging part about it, and then also getting everybody in the comfort zone and feeling comfortable and safe on set is also going to be like a bigger challenge, even going into next year with some of the stuff that we want to film.
Absolutely. So going back to the film, where was the inspiration for this? It's an amazing film of lots of twists and turns. What inspired?
So originally, the film was set up to be part of a hip hop horror festival. And this hip hop horror festival for Revolt TV wanted a horror film with some kind of hip hop element to it. And also add in like some type of social injustice. So the idea really came to me as I was listening to a DMX album, like one of my favorite rappers of all time. And I was listening to his song, and then there was Damien. And I was just like, oh, snap, I got an idea now. And the idea kind of manifested itself from being about an evil entity to being more about your mental health.
I love how, it does address mental health and had that twist for mental health. At first, it was just like, oh my God, what is going on? But I love that you addressed that. I feel like, it's a very important topic right now, especially while we're in this confines of a pandemic, addressing mental health. So is that part of your creative process normally? Like, is it, you kind of mix your music with while you're creating, or is this a normal process for you, or is it just because of the hip hop festival?
It's not. I don't want to say it is, because I recently was inspired by a Jimi Hendrix song to write something about the song "Hey Joe." That kind of inspired a film idea for me. But I get inspiration from almost anything that just comes to me. But one of the biggest things that I'm realizing about myself creatively is that when I first got into this business, I thought I was going to be in that drama lane. Like, I'm going to make dramas, and I'm going to make great dramas. But then I found myself getting into comedy, and I'm doing like sketch comedy and stuff like that. But then I was like, I do have like the love affair with horror films and suspense. So I've realized that I am probably more into the realm of suspense and horror, and that's like where I think I know is my lane. I feel like that is definitely my lane.
So with so much blood, sweat, and tears going, into the film, what was it like when you won? Like, what was your feelings?
I'm sorry, say that again.
With so much blood, sweat, and tears going into your film, like how much, what was the feelings you felt when you won?
Man, it's almost a feeling that you can't really describe because of what we went through with making this film and the rejections of the festivals that we put it into. And it's one of these projects where I've made projects before that at some point you sort of lose your interest in it, and like you don't want to do anything else with it. But with this one, I was so proud of what we did on the budget that we had, where we literally, I swear on everything, we made this movie for $900. I had a good friend of mine who had a cinema camera, another guy who does lighting, and I did the audio, and I had to pay like more money to do ADR, but that's another story. But it was a lot that we went through, losing a location like 3 days before we were going to shoot. And, when you don't have any money, you're at the mercy of like how you're going to do things now creatively with it, and at the mercy of what you can get for free. And we were literally going to change things up, but we, the grace of God almost, where I just so randomly had a friend reach out to me and say, hey, you can film in this WeWork location. And I was like, great, let's do that. But it's a feeling that, honestly, man, just people saying that it's a good film, people liking it that's a great feeling as well. It's just as great as hearing like your name for winning an Audience of Choice Award. So it was great, man. It's a great feeling.
What was the location that you actually lost?
So the original location was for the hospital scenes where the detective and the doctor are walking, and my idea for that scene was inspired by Death Proof and Planet Terror from the Grindhouse series that Quentin Tarantino put together. And they had this hospital scene where I believe it was in Death Proof. They had this hospital scene where they two cops were walking down this long hallway to get to Kurt Russell's character, and they were just having this conversation. That's where that inspiration came from. And I was living on the Upper East Side at the time, and the hallway which to my laundry room looked just like that, but with different colors, and it was beautiful, and it would have worked out fine. But they X'd that whole idea on me, and now I was like, how am I going to film this hospital scene? And I was like going to like clinics. I was doing I have a buddy of mine that lives like way upstate New York, and he works for a hospital, and you're trying to like maybe even drive 5 hours to go film up there. But yeah, it was just the scene in my the location was my building that I was living in at the time.
Oh, okay.
That's great. So, how important do you feel representation is in the horror genre? We see, we've got now Jordan Peele's been big in it. We saw Lovecraft Country come out. How important do you think it is to see representation of Black filmmakers in horror?
Very important, very important, because as a fan of horror films, I sit back and one of my favorite movies is Nightmare on Elm Street. It's a terrible movie. Is it's a great character. Not like terrible, like it's just a bad movie. Like it does hold up for me, but it's just like you don't see yourself in that. You don't get to see yourself in a movie where like these kids have so much anxiety and so much fear. And that is literally the life of Black people throughout the history of America. Like we have so much anxiety and fear where like I hell, Freddy Krueger could come and kill me in my dreams tonight, and that's believable for me. But it's just really like you give me a chance to like we had a chance with Candyman. Candyman was such a great movie at the time, especially when it came out, where like you have like this Black person who is the horror character, who is the killer, and he represents something that's actually a lot deeper than just being some psychopath killer. He actually represents something that was pretty much about the truth of America and the ugly truth of slavery here in America, and that's what he represented. And I love that Jordan Peele is going to remake that. I love that Jordan Peele did you know he'll put off Get Out and Us and stuff like that. So it's just telling those type of stories where you can involve Black people, you can put in historical situations in our country. You can put in I want to see more movies about voodoo. I don't get to see that type of stuff. Like you saw Eve's Bayou, and that to me felt more like a drama than it was a horror. But you don't get to see that type of stuff as often, and especially when horror went in a decline, like around like the mid '90s, and then here come Wes Craven again with the movie Scream, and Scream was just blowing up, and then that was like bringing back the slasher genre of horror films, and then here we go with Saw. Saw comes out, and like now we're getting into like, all right, more people can accept the blood and the gore and the gory guts and all that crazy stuff coming out. So it was just it's just like finding more stories that we can be interested in that doesn't always have to deal with like the evil entity, the crazy psychopath person. Like I do prefer seeing films, or especially horror films, that are you know some random stranger wants to kill you because people are crazy, or the torment that you have within yourself, the self torment that you have, where you're torturing yourself over whatever it is that you fear.
Absolutely. And I love that, and then there was Damon. It explored that definitely. It took us away from these random monsters that you see in horror films and really put us in, a situation where that could happen to anybody having a, inner demon that's, we all kind of have that subconscious, and then to have it like steer you in, the wrong direction. So I love how you brought that in your film. So what's next? What is for you as a director? What can we expect to see from you?
So right now, I'm actually working on a full feature about interracial relationships and how we feel about interracial relationships. That's a topic that I think we don't talk about enough, and I also think it's one of those things where I think it's one of those things that it sort of gets swept under the rug, and you only get like one or two movies like that a year, but like it kind of gets swept under the rug. So we need to bring that out some more. Also, I got a couple of more horror films that I'm writing up to be full features, and I do have another short film that I'm writing that is a little bit about the educational system here in America.
That's awesome. I love the diversity of what you're working on. So I want to thank you so much for joining us for our conversation today. It was great to hear more about your film, more about the process, your thoughts as, us getting involved in horror. It's been a great conversation, and thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I mean, this is a great thing. I yet to do interviews like this for any of the projects that I put together before. So this is great. But thank you.
Thank you
Absolutely.
again for joining thank you for joining my students and participating in the festival. And I'm working a few things backstage, helping some of the students who are coming on next. And so I had to dip out and not participate, but brother, I just appreciate you. And I want to follow up with you on Facebook and the socials and keep up with you. You did a fantastic job with your film, and I just want to follow your career.
Thank you. I appreciate that. I do want to send a thank you out to Catherine Marie. She's my partner. She's my business partner with my small production company, Alpha Stellar Productions. She is, we're somewhat very alike when it comes to like directing and writing. So like she's somebody I trust a lot with it. And she also played the doctor in this project as well.
Oh, okay,
and, yeah, and I definitely want to give a big shout out to Kimberly David, who played Karen. She did an amazing job with it. She's great, and I can't wait to see what's next for her. Actually,
Laura and I were in here screaming, "Put them scissors down, girl! Put them scissors down!" I mean, we were in here yelling at the screen. If this was a regular movie theater, you would have had that. You would have witnessed the experience that we all experience when we go watch a horror movie, or Black people at our best in those spaces. We did the exact same thing in here when we were running the boards, and so fantastic, man, fantastic.
Yeah, thank you.
And for those who want to, see, and then there was Damien. Again, we have the film festival up on our website. So you can go ahead and view that on KPVU-TV.org. In the Festival on the Hill section at the top, you can go and see all of our winners and everything that went on during the festival. And of course, and then there was Damien.
All right. Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for having me. Big shout out to Tony Clomax. Great guy. I haven't talked to him in a long time, but he's a great guy.
Yeah, we're so happy to have him here at Prairie View, and thankful that he did a great job leading the film festival. Excellent. Well, we're going to turn it over to Team D. Team D, I guess it hadn't necessarily gotten into letters and what have you. So we heard from Team A. Kenneth led the way, talking about celebrities using their persuasion and their influence when it came to political leadership. And then Team B, led by Tatiana and Olivia and Shaylin, discussed the feeling of witnessing history during election night. the fact that they were a little young to participate in it with President Barack Obama's 2008 election, when we elected the first African American into public office, or presidential office, I should say, to where we are now as we celebrate Kamala as VP. And then Team C celebrated Festival on the Hill, and in particular Chauncey Johnson, whose film, and then there was Damien, which won the Audience Choice. It was certainly my favorite, one of my favorites of the weekend, and that brother did a fantastic job. Why is it that I should have asked him this. I think he might be still on the call. I'm going to grab him real quick and bring him back up really quickly. Why is Damien that name? Like, I think about Omen,
Yeah.
Why is it always Damien that's the problem kid?
Damien is such a demonic type of name. it's just a really demonic type of name. But I think, you know what? There's an element of darkness behind that name that also I guess it sort of ties in what dark thoughts you may have in the dark world that it comes from. But yeah, it's just a really demonic name.
I'm like, if I cross paths with anyone named Damien, I mean, for years that was already the thought. It's like, I did see The Omen and all those movies, Damien, but then you solidified it with this one, brother. I was like, yeah, won't be crossing paths with no Damien today. Oh, wow. All right. I know you were on your way out, and I just snuck you back in for 1.2 seconds. I appreciate you, brother.
Thank you. I appreciate you too.
All right. No problem. Take care now. All right. So let's bring up our fabulous final team who are going to finish out our afternoon with their topic of the day. Hey, y'all.
Hello.
Hi.
How's everyone doing?
I'm good.
I'm
Good. All right. It's good to see you all. Why don't you tell the audience what you're focusing on today, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, so I'll introduce our topic. So for our StreamYard show segment, we will do a panel on how the coronavirus pandemic has disproportionately affected African Americans. America will not be able to survive without African American citizens who make up a large amount of our essential workers. 3.2 million African Americans are Black healthcare workers, 25% are food delivery workers, and 500,000 Black people work in gas stations, grocery stores, drugstores, etc. Black people are essential in keeping the community going and should be treated as so. Our panel will cover the statistics of Black people in America and how we are being affected in surviving COVID-19.
There we go. Okay, I didn't know you. So I guess my first question would be kind of like, why do we feel that it's a disproportionate effect on African Americans with the coronavirus effect?
You said why?
Yeah, I think that would be my biggest question, because I was trying to research and find out why. And the only thing that I was seeing, as far as from an economic standpoint, most African Americans are kind of working like 9-to-5 jobs, and they're living, paycheck to paycheck. And as well as with that, they also have pre-existing conditions that weaken their immune system already. So I was like, what are the other reasons besides? I guess maybe those are the main reasons.
Yeah, I believe that it's because a lot of us are essential workers, so they're on the field, they're interacting with people every day, whether it's food delivery, grocery stores, you have to interact with people. So through this interaction is why they're getting constantly contaminated. Or if we're talking about low-income communities with Black people, in those low-income communities, a lot of people live together and live in the same household, so maybe 1 or 2 essential workers, and they're going home to 6 people, and this affects all of the people that are living in this household. So,
yeah, I remember I was reading one article about this fast food worker who said that they were scared to go home because I think they worked at like McDonald's, and they said that they hadn't seen like their child in weeks,
due to the corona outbreak, which is like crazy. But it's also like I can see why they're trying to keep their child safe, but it's also like, dang, that's a crazy effect, I feel.
Yeah, that's the reality of it. In my family, we had a friend who she was a nurse and she worked at the hospital every day. And she came home and therefore, well, she has to go home, it's her house, but
yeah,
touching the refrigerator, to the microwave, to your doorknob, just in the bathroom, then everybody will be touching the same surfaces and everybody consequently got sick in her household. And she was feeling, guilt about that. But what can you really do? This is your job, So it goes for healthcare workers too.
Yeah, especially for healthcare workers. I remember this lady who she stays in Atlanta. She's a nurse practitioner. She ended up catching. I'm smiling. I apologize for smiling because this is a serious topic. I just always smile. She's a nurse practitioner, and she ended up like catching corona. And she's kind of older, so it affected her. Like it had a very like large effect on her. She was hospitalized, and she was hospitalized for a very long time. But she ended up beating it, thank God. You know what I mean? But it's still crazy that healthcare professionals have to put their lives on the line like that. I don't think they ever saw anything like this, coming.
Yeah. And then they have to work the long hours and wear their masks throughout all of these hours. So they've been putting in extra hours, and we can just hope that they have the top health care. But essential workers such as grocery store workers and fast food workers, they might not have that top health care insurance to where they can deal with this virus as they need to. They don't have anywhere to go to self-isolate. That's not their house.
Yeah.
So every day that they go to work, they're putting everyone at home at risk, but not by choice, because they have to pay the bills. They have to make a living. So it's not a choice. They have to go to work.
Yeah, they have to. Because they ain't making no crazy amounts of money, you know what I'm saying, to just maybe even take off or anything like that. Because you working at Walmart or Kroger or McDonald's or Burger King or something like that, you got to, every shift you get, you know what I'm saying, you kind of have to go to. You can't really miss anything, especially in this time economically. Mm-hmm. And I remember we thought it was going to be it was going to be like an economic depression at one point because they had shut down the country. Mm-hmm. So we didn't know how the economy was going to start like booming in a sense, and then they just let everybody free.
Yeah, but
now kind of opened the city up, and it didn't help.
Now the country's opened back up, and we weren't necessarily ready. So now there's talks of another lockdown possibly to take care of this, because we're trying to save the economy, but we need to save the people. So it's like, where's that balance? Is it money or lives? Like, where's that balance?
Because, we seeing what they picking, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, you can't even really, exactly what they, you know what I'm saying? You know exactly what they thinking, especially with who we had in office. We know where his mind was at. So.
And a lot of people were losing their businesses. I've seen a lot of businesses, or like small places that I went, like personal businesses that I went there, shut down. Restaurants are shut down. The restaurant I used to work at got shut down because they were located in the outside mall, and people weren't going to the mall anymore when it first started, and they couldn't stand that. They didn't have enough cushion to deal with that. So this affected everybody in a different way.
Yeah, I was looking at this article, and it was like the list of pre-existing conditions that make it more difficult to survive COVID. And they were saying, diabetes and heart disease, asthma, other lung diseases, obesity, and high blood pressure. And, you know what I'm saying, diabetes and high blood pressure right there, that's like, you know what I'm saying, that's huge in the African-American community. I know mad relatives that got diabetes and high blood pressure.
Yeah, my dad does, so it makes me nervous about him, and he still has to go into work. He works in an office setting, but they try to like dissociate days, so certain days, certain groups come in and certain teams come in, but it still makes me nervous about if he'll catch it and then bring it home to the 5 people that live at home. So.
Right. Because my he's an installer back home, so he's having to go in people's homes and install, and you don't even know what people got in their homes, and then he already allergic to like cats. So people leaving cat dander and stuff around the house because their houses is dirty and stuff like that. Like it's already enough stuff. So he got high blood pressure, and then that allergy, like the I guess the effect that he would get from it is 10 times greater than me, because I had it like last month.
Oh, you did have COVID. So talk about your experience. You did have COVID.
Honestly, it wasn't. For me, it wasn't super bad. I was just super congested, like crazy, and I had to call the COVID hotline on campus, and they had to quarantine me. They had to quarantine me in the UC, and that every day is terrible. For like 10 days, I was in there, and when they would deliver food, because you can't go and get your food, they would like bring food from MSC, and they would like knock on the door and like run away, like they drop the food off, and then like leave it at the door. Like it is crazy how fast they would move, because I would get up to open the door and they already down the hall. You know what I'm saying? So like, they sprinting down the hallway.
Yeah, you were being responsible though, and you took the proper steps. You took the precaution. You called them. You let them know you had it, even though it wasn't like the best experience. You know, you needed to quarantine to not get anybody else sick. So that shows responsibility.
Speaking on your experience, I had read an article where it affected grocery store workers. 20% of them had COVID-19, but they didn't have any symptoms. So even though you was congested, how is it that we could have a deadly virus in our body but not even know it? Like, that's really crazy.
Right, because you can affect so many other people, and you don't even know. Like, you were hanging out with one person, they went home and to their 4 other roommates and touched all the things their roommates touched.
Yeah.
Their roommates have other friends. Definitely in college, where everything is social, it's very hard to battle a virus like this.
Right. Because different people going out regardless of the rules and stuff, they still going out and having a fun, living their college life, especially freshmen. I remember when freshmen first got here. When freshmen first got here, and the upperclassmen was like bashing them on Twitter because they was talking about different kickbacks at parties.
Yeah.
And stuff that they was gonna go to. We like in the middle of a pandemic, during a pandemic type stuff. So it was kind of interesting to see. But at the same time, it's like I can't really be mad at them, because I remember when I first got to college, I was ready.
Yeah, and it's
to live my best life. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, nobody wants to miss out on the experience, and a part of just human nature is just being selfish, you know. And nobody has ever had to battle anything like this, where they like have to either question morality, like what's good or bad. I know it's a bad thing to do, but it's fun for them, you know.
Yeah.
Like, can you necessarily judge people? But at the end of the day, some people are getting sick and dying, and they don't even know who they're affecting, because some people are asymptomatic, as Alexis said, and that's honestly the scariest part for me.
Right.
And I have to go home soon, so I'm going to get tested before I go home. Thanksgiving, right. My grandparents are going to be there. My parents are going to be there. I'm coming from college with the people everywhere.
Yeah.
So I get tested before I go home, just for that clarity.
Speaking on testing, how many times do y'all think is like the right amount to get tested?
I believe,
like, is there a certain amount?
I believe that I've been tested once a month since I've been back at PV. I just had a COVID scare literally 2 days ago. My friend is sick and she got tested, and I went with her because we do everything together and we were both negative. So, and I don't know, I've been in the house and I haven't been out like everybody else, but then I've had like 3 COVID scares just from like, you know, with one person. So it's like, what is this? And then it's like, why am I sitting in the house to get it anyway? But I know it's for the greater cause, but it's like that.
Yeah, what is he doing? Yeah.
Like, I'm wasting my years. I'm about to graduate, but I know it's other people before myself. So I know when you're young, you want to be selfish, but I feel like that's the point I'm at right now. It's others before me.
I feel that. I just got tested, I want to say like last month, and I tested negative, but that was like after, you know, I had it. I just wanted to make sure before I started like going out and being around my friends that I was cool, because I didn't want to expose them. When I had caught it, I had text like all my friends and let them know, you know, hey, y'all should go get tested because I've been around y'all, you know. And all my friends, thankfully, they ended up being negative. I don't know how it felt. One of my friends would like texting me and like, told me they got like a positive test, I'd have been like great.
I was hanging out with somebody and they texted, like I woke up to a text message and it was like a paragraph like, you need to go get tested, and my heart just dropped. And it's a really scary feeling. It's a super scary feeling because now you're like, oh, who do I need to tell? And at like 24 to 38 hours, you gotta wait for the results. You can't go anywhere. You pacing back and forth. You're super nervous, and then it's like negative. It's been negative every time for me, thank God. But yeah, that's just a super like nerve-wracking feeling.
Yeah, getting that email that you got it, it's crazy. Cause I was playing the game, I was playing the game. I got an email about my COVID results. I'm like, okay, cool, let me check, and I'm like saying positive. I was like,
and then it's this paranoia, like when I thought, like when somebody told me that was around me that they had it, I'm like, ugh, my head is hurting, and maybe my throat hurts. Like my brain is messing stuff up because I'm nervous, and it's a long period to be nervous. They don't give you those fast results, so. Yeah, that part is super scary, and as college students, we have to learn how to deal with that, but everybody has to deal with that between people who work the 9-to-5s every day, and even the middle school and high school kids. They're just kids right now, and they're missing their whole experience. Everything is changing for them. Kids thrive off of, playing with other kids, being social with other kids, so when that's taken away from them, how do you react when they've never been in that situation?
Yeah.
They've never had to choose that, and they can't even choose that for themselves. So if their parents still want to go out or parents still want to do, then they have to consequently deal with that. So it affects everybody in different ways, and I don't feel like anybody is like disproportionately affected. I feel like the older generation, the younger generation, everybody is going to hit with this at the same time, and everybody's being forced to react. Now you have to question yourself, like, who am I? What do I do about this? Do I want to tell people? Are people going to be mad at me? So,
wow, great conversation, y'all. I'm watching this and I'm sitting here going, I think of all the generations, all the ages of people that I'm learning the most from regarding this pandemic is your age group. Your age group has been the most flexible and the most adaptable during this time because, for instance, college age students are the ones, first of all, who had to go from having a full-on college experience to, all classes are now virtual and, no homecoming and no graduations and high school students as well. But high school students still have the benefit of being at home with their parents, whereas you all, that age group from late 18, 19 to 23 when you're in college, this is your time to be independent or to begin that independence, right? And to go out and start forging your own identity as an individual in the world outside of, when you were home with your family and you're dealing with this. So I've been really impressed by all of you, the three of you in particular, but all of you within this age group, because I think more so than anyone, your need to just kind of shift your expectations and shift your actions and activities, especially too. These are your party years, right? You're going to continue to party well into your 30s. I'm here to tell you, and even maybe into your 40s. I don't know, but these are the years where you really should be out having a great time, having fun, and doing all the things and traveling the world and having a good time. And unfortunately, this is what you have to look at. But what you all have done incredibly well is take on the challenge of how do you fit COVID into your lives. So I'm really impressed by you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It looks like we have a comment before we sign off. Laura had to sign up. She had another meeting, but she also said great conversation. And it really was. You guys did a fantastic job. I'm glad that you are better, Carmine.
Me too.
Carmine was slated to help me out with homecoming. We had a whole team put together, and he was going to do some interviewing for us. And the week before, he was like, TDV. Literally. I don't think I should do it. And I was like, at first I was like, are you what's going on? You got stage fright? You don't want to do it no more? He was like, nah, I tested positive. and it was just like, oh, bruh, how do you don't even know how to react now because, like you say, everyone reacts to it differently. And there's that initial feeling of, oh my God, are you okay? And you were very clear in saying, I feel okay, but I'm gonna stay here at the house.
Yeah, I ain't want to expose it to nobody, especially during the homecoming. It's like we trying to avoid homecoming, and it's like I'm here people and spreading it. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like that would have been super selfish and crazy.
That's a lot of maturity though for you.
Yeah.
Some people are knowing they have it and still hanging out with people, so that just shows a lot of maturity. You let everybody know, even let your teacher. You let everybody know.
Yeah.
And then talking about your experience to educate people that you might not feel anything, but you still need to get tested.
Yeah, yeah. And Alexis and Kirsten, you two, I tell you what, you need to do more on-camera interviewing and whatnot. You did a fantastic job here today.
Thank you.
Miss Griffin is always so quiet. Miss Terriot is so quiet. And then here you are just, leading this great panel. You guys did a fabulous job. You should do more interviewing on camera. I want to make sure that happens.
Okay.
Miss Griffin's like, I just want to be behind the scenes. Okay, ma'am. Okay. All right, so we're going to wrap it up. I'm going to take you guys out of the call and just finish up on behalf of Communications 3723, which is TV studio production. 3733, my bad, wrong course number. 3733, television studio productions. These students had to shape a whole new experience for themselves, with me redirecting the course delivery. The studio that we have here in Hilliard Hall is under renovations, but even if it was finished, COVID would not allow us to do all the things that we typically do in the TV studio. And so the ability to adapt and shift to this virtual experience was just phenomenal. And they've worked really hard all semester to continue to grow themselves in television production. And I appreciate you all for watching and listening to their final presentations, essentially. So with that, we're going to sign out. And thanks again. Bye.